Hey guys, Frederick Faber, the 19th century hymn writer and theologian, once made the following comment. He said, "Every moment of resistance to temptation is a victory." His point is a simple one. Every time we resist against temptation in the world, we are experiencing a moment of spiritual victory. We're not giving in to the temptation to sin and therefore experiencing. Notice what his statement assumes. It assumes that we will all face temptation. Every single one of us, every single day. Temptations to give into selfishness. Temptations to give into ungodly pleasures. Temptations to disobey and dishonor God. The God that we were created to love and to serve. You see, we live our lives in a constant battle where there's this push and pull in the world and in our own flesh and between us and the evil one. All of these things conspiring together to try to pull us away from God and into sin. You see, the battle is real and the struggle is real. We will all face moments of temptation in life, and yet no matter who we are, we have all lost battles in our struggle with sin. As scriptures plainly teach us in Romans 3, all have sinned and all fall short of the glory of God. And in Ecclesiastes 7:20, indeed there is no one on earth who is righteous, no one who does what is right and never sins. You see, this is the human condition. We are fallen, we are sinful, we are prone to temptation, and none of us is any better than any other. It's just a reality of our world. But, and this is the crucial part, victory is possible. It's possible. And in Matthew chapter 4, we read the fascinating account of the temptation of Jesus. Not only was Jesus tempted, but the text tells us in no uncertain terms that God allowed it. And not only did God allow it when Jesus was in a very weakened state. Jesus faced the worst of Satan's temptations, and he overcame. He faced multiple difficult temptations, pulling him towards sin, and yet he won each and every battle. But how did he do it? What gave him the strength to fight those battles and win? You see, in Jesus, our King, we will find a way of identifying the tactics that Satan uses against us in our battles with temptation. And in Jesus, we will find help for fighting the temptations that we face. You see, in Jesus, we discover a battle plan that you and I can use, and it's a plan that can help us win if we will but follow it. So let's learn from this passage well so that we can fight like our King. So this coming Sunday on May 7th, we are beginning a brand new lesson series here at GNG called Fight Like a King. And as you know, if you've been with us for any length of time, we've been working our way through the Gospel of Matthew, and Matthew presents Jesus as the King. And in this series, which will walk us through the first 11 verses of Matthew chapter 4, we will see the temptation of the King in the wilderness. And in week 1, in a lesson entitled On Battles, Tests, and Temptations, we're going to take a look at the first couple of verses of Matthew chapter 4, really the first 2 and then just a little segment of verse 3. And as we look at those verses, we will assess the reality of the battle that Jesus faced. And by extension, the battle that all of us will find ourselves in as well. You see, we'll see that there are multiple players in this account. God, Jesus, Satan. Each of them has an end game. Each of them has a goal. Each of them is trying to accomplish something in this moment of trial and testing. And we'll get a sense from what Jesus endured of what we can expect in our battles with temptation in this life. Then in week 2, in a lesson entitled Know Your Enemy, we'll assess the battle strategy that Satan used against Jesus during this temptation. You see, Satan ran a very particular playbook against Jesus. And fascinatingly, he really never changes his plays. He continues to run the exact same plays against us today. And in fact, Jesus faced Satan's tactics and defeated them, and in so doing shows us that it truly can be done. So that lesson is all about how we can understand the way Satan is going to attack each and every one of us. And finally, in week 3, in a lesson entitled Fight Like the King, we'll take a look at how Jesus responded to these temptations. So in week 2, we'll break down each of the temptations and what Satan was trying to get Jesus to do. And then in week 3, we'll break down how Jesus responded. You see, Jesus also had a battle strategy going into this particular trial. And he ran it to perfection to blunt the effectiveness of Satan's temptations. Not only that, we'll see that the only resources that Jesus had at his disposal during this temptation are the exact same resources available to you and to me in our battles with temptation. Now, guys, this lesson series is going to challenge us. These lessons will force us to see the battle that we face, will force us to understand the tactics that Satan will use, and will give us the opportunity to learn how to fight like Jesus, the one true King. And we need this series, guys. And we need to know how to fight, and we need to know how Jesus fought, because everything in our experience tells us that we are far more likely to give in. Because unlike Jesus, we are not perfect. We all have given in. Every single one of us has given Satan ammo that he uses against us. Because all have sinned and all have fallen short. And when we fall short in one area, it makes it easier to do it over and over and over again. And quite frequently, as we get into patterns of sin, we are just simply handing Satan more ammo to shoot at us. Jesus never did that. And so he had an opportunity to face down these temptations and win. And through him, and by understanding the way he lived, and by understanding what he did, we too can fight against our temptations and win. And we can avoid the havoc that they bring into our lives when we fail. So guys, join us this coming Sunday as we continue our study of the Gospel of Matthew and follow Jesus as he teaches us how to fight against temptation. We'll see you guys this coming Sunday.